So when a person files for divorce in New York City, the first thing that happens is that the initial paperwork to start the divorce is filed with the court. Once that's done, then the other party to the case gets served by personal service user. And then what happens depends on each individual client and how they want their case to proceed. Sometimes you can have a situation where the parties are not so much in disagreement, and there's an opportunity where you can start negotiating with the attorney for the other side, get into a negotiation session, and try and see if you can work something out for the issues of the divorce without ever having to step foot into court. Or another option is you can, if it's a very contentious case, you can go straight into court, file what's called a request for judicial intervention, and then what that does is that it gets the case assigned to a judge, and you would then get contacted by that judge's part or clerk, and then a court date would be set, an initial court date. With a contested divorce, that's a little bit more complicated. In contested divorce, the parties are fighting over something. There's disagreement with respect to either child custody, exclusive use and occupancy of the home, division of assets, maybe there's issues of spousal maintenance. All of these things need to be worked out, and the parties cannot do it between themselves or even with them and their attorneys. So you have to file what's called a request for judicial intervention, which gets you in front of a judge, and then the judge starts understanding what the issues are, and then that's how you begin to start resolving the issues. So the difference between a contested divorce and an uncontested divorce is that with a contested divorce, you wind up in litigation with a judge in a court so that these issues can be resolved. An uncontested divorce is a divorce between parties that really don't have anything to divide, and they don't have disagreements with respect to the issues in the divorce. So usually there's no child involved, usually there's no assets to be divided. Maybe they've been married a short period of time, so they haven't had the opportunity to build any of these things. So it's just a divorce where two parties want to be separated and divorced from each other. So that can be done on paper without going to court, without ever seeing a judge. It's the type of divorce where you could reach an agreement quickly with your spouse, sign the necessary paperwork, that paperwork gets filed, and then after several months, the judge will sign it and the parties are divorced. A contested divorce is more complicated. With a contested divorce, all of these or some of these issues exist. There could be child support issues, child custody issues, division of assets. There could be issues with respect to exclusive use and occupancy of the home. And in a contested divorce, the parties need the assistance of the court in order to resolve those types of issues. So one of the biggest questions that we get from clients and potential clients is, how long will my divorce take? And the answer is, it depends. It depends on several different factors. It depends on whether you have an uncontested divorce or a contested divorce. If you do have a contested divorce, it depends on what issues exist, whether there's going to be a custody issue, whether there's just an issue with respect to division of assets, whether one person is at a financial disadvantage than the other. All of these things factor into how long a divorce takes. And it's very difficult for an attorney to predict for a client how long a divorce is going to take. The only time that we are able to predict with somewhat more certainty is if you have an uncontested divorce case. Because if the parties are not fighting over anything, if there's nothing really to dispute, then you can sort of get an understanding of how long a particular case will take in a particular county. But once you have a contested divorce, it really depends on a lot of different factors, and it's very difficult to predict. So if you are in a contested divorce matter, and you are, let's say you are the less moneyed spouse, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom, or you just are the person who earns the least amount of money. Your spouse makes much more than you. That puts you at a disadvantage in the divorce. There are certain things that you can do to sort of get equal footing with your spouse during the divorce. You can seek temporary spousal maintenance. If there's children involved and you have custody of the children, and by custody I mean physical custody, you can request temporary child support. If your spouse makes significantly more than you, you can also request that your spouse pay part or all of your attorney's fees. All of these things are available to a less moneyed spouse during the time that the divorce is pending. And the court does this, these things exist so that the parties can fight out their divorce sort of on equal footing, particularly when it comes to being able to retain an attorney and having financial resources to hire an attorney for the purposes of the litigation. I think the biggest surprise to clients is how long their divorce will take. That's probably the biggest surprise. In New York State, divorces move very slow. And I don't think clients are generally ready for the amount of time that a divorce can take. And that goes for an uncontested divorce and a contested divorce. Obviously, a contested divorce would take more time. But even an uncontested divorce is somewhat of a lengthy process. There's no such thing as an uncontested divorce in New York City where you file and then a month later you are divorced. That just doesn't happen. There's too much volume in New York City and these things take time. And I think that most clients take issue with that, but it's not an issue with respect to your legal representation. It's just the volume of cases that exist in New York City that causes these types of delays. Now, when you're talking about a contested divorce, the delays generally come from the issues that exist within the divorce and in the marriage. Solving those issues or reaching an agreement on those issues or getting a judge to make decisions on those issues are what generally tend to take a lot of time when you're doing a divorce that is contested. One of the biggest mistakes a person can do is file their divorce without first securing legal representation. Filing a divorce without legal representation and legal advice can cause a person to make very big mistakes that will affect them later on down the line in the divorce. Number one, you should have an understanding of what your rights are before you file for divorce. What your rights are and what your needs are is going to affect what you file for. You file a divorce and there are certain things that you want to allege. Some things you can allege benefit you, some don't benefit you. Some don't benefit you. It's important for you to get the legal advice that you need and the representation that you need to make sure that you avoid those types of mistakes. In addition to that, there are some people who are in a disadvantaged position. You could have someone who's maybe a stay-at-home mom that doesn't have any type of knowledge about the legal process and what her rights are with respect to dealing with their children, having custody of the children while this divorce is pending. And all of these things are very important because divorces tend to take a long time, particularly when they are contested. And you want to make sure that you take the steps that you need, the proper steps from the very beginning, so that you can be successful in the end when the time comes to make a final decision and reach a final settlement. You want to make sure you're in a good position to negotiate and fight out your case during the pendency of your divorce. I think one of the worst things that a client can do is allow themselves to be guided by emotion during their divorce with respect to the decisions in their divorce. Divorces are very complicated and very emotionally charged situations. And clients hopefully do not allow their emotions to get involved in the process of making decisions, reaching agreements. If you're in the middle of a contested divorce, we advise all clients to try and avoid speaking with their spouse about settlement options. Because a lot of times the discussions between spouses get misinterpreted. And then when it comes time to settle cases, that misinterpretation tends to sort of hinder the advancement of the case and settlement discussions and the work that the attorneys have to do for purposes of settling the case. Clients should always let the negotiations be handled by their attorneys. It'll result in the best outcome for them. If you're thinking about divorce, experience matters. Information matters. Here at H. Benjamin Perez, we have over 50 years of combined legal experience in dealing with contested, uncontested divorces and family law related issues. Give us a call today for your free consultation.